Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. Thanks for hanging out on this channel where we talk about video games and we do it in a pretty laid back way. Today I have 15 platinum trophies that I have recently obtained that I want to break down and see exactly how much fun that they were. This is actually technically 20 games. There's 5 I think in here that don't have platinum trophies. They're just 100% lists. So technically I lied in the title and thumbnail, and you're getting more than you bargained for. But these are all games that I have completed since I made my trophy collection video, which if you didn't check out, I will link somewhere wherever the links happen on the top of the video here. And this is basically kind of an update of everything that I have done since that point. Thank you so much, by the way, to everyone that watched that video. It seemed to be pretty popular, so I figured why not give an update and at the same time kind of break down my feelings on these different platinum trophies. So I have 5 categories here. We've got, oh yeah, these are the games that are like, chef's kiss. These are the ones you want, right? These are the platinum trophies that you enjoy on the games that you enjoy. Well done, master list, kudos. We've got real solid. Real solid is for stuff that's like pretty dang good, the game is good and the list is pretty good. Maybe it has 1 or 2 little things that are kind of meh, but all in all, it's still a lot of fun and totally worth going for. We've got complete mid, which is just uninspired games, things that aren't really all that fun or aren't really all that offensive. They just kind of live in the middle and you're fine that you did them. Then we've got good game, bad list. This is a game that I liked, but the trophy list itself has some major flaw or is annoying in some way. Not every game has a perfect trophy list, and so that's what those will be. And then finally, no thanks. These are for games that are just not ideal, not fun to go for, and in general, just maybe a pass from me. So we'll see. We'll see if anything lands that low. I'm not too sure. But we're going to go ahead and kick it off here. Our first game is Thymesia. So this game, if you've never seen this before, this is a Souls-like that came out, I think 2022. Yeah, I think 2022. It is a very fast-paced Souls-like. It's a very action-focused one. It's kind of like a halfway between the methodical combat of a Souls-like and something a little more fast-paced like a Devil May Cry. It definitely follows kind of in the Bloodborne mold, but I'd say it's even faster than that. And it has no stamina meter at all. So you can dodge as much as you want. It's got a big focus on parrying. It's actually a pretty good balance of parrying and dodging in the game. So all in all, it's pretty fun. The trophy list, however, does have a couple of little annoying trophies. Nothing too bad. It is something you can clean up all in one playthrough. There's nothing that's missable outside of some collectibles in the tutorial. So if you're going to do this list, just make sure you look up a collectibles guide for the very tutorial, the first 5 collectibles, the first 15 minutes of the game. And beyond that, everything else is good. I have heard that some of the collectibles they patched in and you can get them later in the game, but I would just play it safe. I'd follow a guide for the tutorial and then you'll be okay. This game in general, now it has some trophies for getting to max level, which was kind of grindy, and just some other stuff that wasn't super inspired to go far. It does have a really cool trophy for beating the tutorial boss. Every Souls game has a boss that you're kind of supposed to lose to that teaches you oh snap, this game's going to be hard. There's a trophy for going back and beating that boss, which is really fun to do after you've finished the game because you're kind of way more familiar with the mechanics and much more capable. I would say that none of the problem trophies are really too bad. I'll put this one in real solid. It's a little short and a little bit of a grind here and there that wasn't super great, but all in all, I enjoyed my time with it. All right, we have this is Need for Speed Most Wanted. So I played the Vita version. This is the Vita trophy list, and it's surprisingly solid for a Vita port. It is, I'm sure, much less capable than the console versions. I'm sure this is the worst way to play it, but I happen to own it. And I'd actually happened to already unlock 1 or 2 trophies in it. So a lot of these games are actually games that were in my backlog that I went back and cleaned up trophies on. I've been really big into doing that lately. I've been diving back into stuff on my list from 2, 3, 4, in some cases more than that years ago, and cleaning up the trophies, which has been really rewarding. And this was one of those games that I had gotten just 1 or 2 trophies in, and I went back and I fully cleaned up the list. The single player is fun. I would say it's kind of frustrating at the beginning of the game and pretty fun in the back half. But then there are some online trophies, and there's not like any online scene right now, so you're gonna have to, find a way to clean those up. Shoutouts to my buddy Vyar45, who is in the Polykill Discord. He grinded some of these online trophies with me. I would say that on the whole, it's a solid game. The trophy list was okay. It's got a lot of collectibles you have to just follow a guide for, like hundreds of like billboards and cameras and stuff. So I don't know that makes it a bad list, but I would probably average it all out to be complete mid. The game itself is better than that. The trophy list is just eh. Next up here, this is Mutant Mud's Super Challenge. This is another Vita game. This is another cleanup that I did. I was missing all but 2 trophies on this list. So if you've never played it before, this is a pretty straightforward, kind of like slow-paced platformer, I guess technically run and gun, but it's more of a platformer. This was originally a 3DS eShop game. Then it came and got ported to Vita as well. The one sort of like big mechanic is that you can hop in and out of the foreground and background at specific points. So it doesn't change the gameplay that much, but it is visually pretty cool looking. But I was missing only 2 trophies. I was missing getting all of one type of collectible, and then I was missing you had to beat the game dying less than 100 times. And the collectibles, it was actually unlockable characters you can play as from other indie games. That was really easy to go get. The less than 100 deaths wasn't too bad. In my first playthrough, I had died 360 times. And so, cutting that down by a third is a lot, but after having practiced some of the levels while getting the characters and kind of one unsuccessful attempt, it was pretty doable and it was pretty enjoyable. So I'd put that one, I would say that one is a real solid. The game doesn't quite elevate to an oh yeah, but still. And this is another list it's just a 100%. There's no platinum trophy for that. These other 2 do have platinum trophies. Next, we've got a pretty modern puzzle game, one of my 10 favorite games from 2023, if you watched my Game of the Year video, Chants of Sennaar. This is a really cool puzzle game where you are learning and deciphering language from context clues and like conversational clues. So based on, what people are saying, matched with the actions that they're doing or the location that they're standing or other environmental hints, you can figure out what words mean and start to decode the language. If you like games like Return of the Obra Dinn, this will be right up your alley. I would say that it's got a pretty straightforward platinum trophy. A lot of these puzzle-based platinum trophies tend to be pretty popular because you can just look up a guide. But I would say avoid a guide, do it yourself. It's really rewarding. And the cleanup is both fun and pretty easy. There's nothing in here that's overly difficult. Basically, you decipher all the language and, get kind of the true ending, which comes from doing that, and you'll get everything. So I'm going to pop that one in the oh yeah. Great game, solid fun, good complimentary trophy list. Oof, this is a tough one. Dreams. So this is another backlog cleanup game. I love Dreams. I'm a big defender of Dreams. I think that it's an incredible platform with so many creative and good games on there. It is tough to decide where to place the trophy list, though. So if you're familiar with Dreams, it's both an engine to create games as well as to go play the creations that other people have done. The problem is that there are a lot of trophies that are focused on getting you into the creation side of things, which I don't really blame them for. Like, they need creators to be creating games, right? The problem is that if you're someone like me and you just kind of know that you're not looking to create a game, or, you maybe don't have like that itch, they're really a slog. I mean, some of these, I'm not kidding, you have to do some there's in-game quests that you get for doing certain actions, and then the trophies are tied to those quests. Some of these are literally sit in sculpt mode for 2 hours. And so you just sit in sculpt mode, clicking around. I literally pulled the game up, clicked around, and then switch the TV to like a different show and just watched a show while I kept moving the buttons and occasionally, recentering the controller without even looking at the screen anymore. So, not a great trophy list in that regard, but do I blame them for it? No, not really. It's almost like I feel like I had to do my time with it. So it's either an oh yeah or it's a good game bad list. Ooh. It seems so harsh to put it here, but I guess we'll put a good game bad list. Dreams is incredible though. Don't let that soil you, but the platinum is hard to go for and will require like 5 to 6 hours of like literal grinding, like mindless tapping. So, be warned. Nova 111. This is a Vita game. It's kind of a turn-based puzzle game. It's like, it plays kind of like a dungeon crawler or a roguelike, where when you move a tile, then the enemies move a tile. But it's set in space, and you have, like different like laser weapons and things that you can use to defeat enemies. It's got a very kind of memey sense of humor, and the visual style is, like, to me, a little cluttered and hard to read, so I don't super highly recommend it. And on top of that, you do have to get, like, everything in the game, which is kind of a slog and really, again, just requires you sitting, grinding, looking up guides and stuff like that. I really probably shouldn't have gone for this one. I wasn't enjoying it too much. Overall, I didn't love the game. I didn't love the trophy list. I'm going to put that one in a no thanks. So at least we have one in there. It's not the worst game in the world, but yeah, not for me. Alan Wake 2. Another one of my 10 games from 2023. You can go check out that video again. Alan Wake 2 is awesome. It's so much fun to just like... It's such a ride. You're just going through the story. I think this is a big game from last year. A lot of people understand that Alan Wake 2 is pretty cool. In terms of the trophy list, it's actually pretty good. Again, there's not much that's missable, if anything. There were a couple of glitches, like bugged trophies. I had one bugged trophy, actually, a collectible. One of the TVs in-game that you watch didn't pop for me, or didn't track for me. But kudos to Remedy. They patched it, and they patched it in the way that you should be patching these games, where when I went back and I loaded my, file that was at the end of the game. So I beat the game, stopped playing, they patched it. I loaded it back up like a week or two later, and the trophy just popped. I didn't have to do a second playthrough to collect all the collectibles or anything. It just popped, and I was good to go, and I got my platinum. So, not too hard of a platinum, but it's a great game with a fun platinum that, has you exploring a lot of the side content. I'm going to put that one in. Oh, yeah. Sea of Stars, yet another game for my Game of the Year list in 2023. Video available. Sea of Stars is a great throwback, very much owes it a debt to Chrono Trigger. It is the modern Chrono Trigger for fans of that game. You have a new one that you can go check out, but it's got a little bit of the flavor of the Mario and Luigi games or Super Mario RPG, something like that. Excellent game, visually stunning, incredible soundtrack, just top to bottom awesome. In terms of the trophy list, also pretty good. You have to do a lot of the side quests, and, there's like some collectibles and stuff, like collecting the rainbow conches. Really not that bad, and there's in-game trackers to help you hunt stuff down, so it was pretty enjoyable. And the one trophy that'll probably hang people up, if any, is there's a trophy for beating 10 bosses with a relic equipped. It basically makes it so that you die in one hit. You have to perfectly execute the timed attacks, but you can do that on New Game Plus. It only takes an hour or two. It's not too bad. I'm gonna go ahead and put that one into, oh yeah, if it's one of my 10 favorite games of the year, oh yeah, good trophy list to go for. Jak and Daxter, The Precursor Legacy. This was a replay for me, a childhood favorite of mine. I think a pretty popular, trophy hunting game too, because all you need to do is collect everything in the game and you get the platinum trophy. As a kid, I don't remember if I had ever collected everything. I probably did. I have played the game 3 or 4 times. I can just never remember if I got 101% or 101 of the power cells. But really great classic 3D platformer, you know, very much of its age. Here's the thing though. Jak and Daxter, I love it to death. It is one of my favorite platformers, but it has a couple of like real inconveniences to it. Not with the trophy list, just with the game. First off, there's no subtitle option, so it's like hard to process the story, especially if you're doing anything else at the same time. You know, Jak and Daxter's not the kind of game that at this point I need to focus 100% of my attention on, and it needs subtitles. The other thing is that the camera controls are weird. It's like the horizontal camera is inverted, but the camera controls for the vertical axis are non-existent. So it can be real tough to navigate. If this was just, you know, if I was just talking the trophy list, I'd put it in, oh yeah. I think, though, it's going to be tough to go back to if you've never played it before. I'm going to put this one in real solid. That maybe doesn't map to my heart score for the game. I would want to see it up here, but I think that you're going to need to get over some difficult controls if you're new to the game. Xeodrifter. This is a very neat mini gated exploration game, mini Metroidvania. It's very short, so much so that there's a speedrun trophy for beating the game in under an hour, which was the only trophy that I still needed. This is another one from the backlog. This is also another one that doesn't have a platinum. It's only a 100%. But I played through the game, you know, kind of refamiliarized myself with it. It only took a couple of hours, and then I went for the speedrun. It took me 2 attempts to get the speedrun. It's really not too bad. All in all, it's just a good game. It's like short and sweet. It's over before it outstays its welcome. Really pretty good. It's from the same developer, actually, that did Mutant Muds, Renegade Kid, that has since changed their name to Atui. But I'm going to go ahead and plop this one into real solid. Returnal. All right, Returnal is one of the best games ever made. I love Returnal. It's maybe my favorite PS5 exclusive. Yeah, I've revisited this game tons of times, but I had never locked in and gotten all of the trophies and gotten the 100%. But I went back originally to play the DLC, and while I was there, I was like, I should clean up this list. And I since cleaned up both the DLC list and I got the platinum. Now, you'd think that I was going to put this in good game, bad list, because the thing about Returnal that everyone will talk about is that there are RNG collectibles. There are, you know, it is a roguelike, so the runs and the rooms that you get in those runs are randomized. And the collectibles spawn in specific rooms. So if your run doesn't spawn the room with the collectible, you won't be able to get it. And that can be annoying if you're just trying to clean up the collectibles and maybe you're not so into the game, because you could do, you know, runs for 5 hours before the last collectible in an area that you need shows up. But I love Returnal so much that I didn't care. It was so much fun to grind out. I had such a blast playing through. I got all the collectibles within 5-6 hours of grinding on it, but that's just doing runs in a game that I otherwise really love. So those collectibles didn't bother me personally. I'm going to go ahead and throw that into the oh yeah category as well. SteamWorld Dig. This is a pretty old indie game at this point. I think 2013, right? And it is another kind of, not really a roguelike. It's like kind of randomized world, but then static exploration and upgrades. You're digging down, finding upgrades, and trying to dig deeper and deeper. Plays kind of like a 2D platformer meets a little bit of like a Terraria or something like that, kind of. Pretty straightforward, pretty fun. There is these set of trophies, though, that are pretty brutal to go for. Well, I say they sound brutal, but they aren't as bad as they seem, because I got them on my first try. When you beat the game, you're ranked on 4 different criteria, which were you have to unlock these gold stars for doing different things. It was for collecting the mass majority of one of the resource types, orbs. You have to beat the game without dying. You have to forget what the third one is, and then the last one is you have to beat the game in under 2.5 hours, I think. Might be under 3 hours, but it's a speedrun one. So you kind of have to 100% the game while also speedrunning it, which is daunting. And you have to do all that without dying, which sounds brutal. But, you know, you can look up some speedruns for it. And as long as you kind of know the route and you know where to go and kind of map out your plan, it isn't too bad. I ended up getting it at my first attempt, and I had like 15 minutes to spare on the speedrun. And yeah, it went pretty smooth. So all in all, really solid game. All right, Turnip Boy commits tax evasion. That is, in fact, the name of the game. And this is I guess, a humor-based Zelda clone. Like, most similarly plays to a top-down Zelda, like A Link to the Past or something like that. It's a very self-aware game. You know, it's got that sense of humor where it's making jokes, kind of breaking the fourth wall, often breaking the fourth wall, you know, joking about the fact that it's a game, which can kind of land flat sometimes. The game is really short and overall really, really easy. It's fun enough, but it's just the type of game that you kind of forget about after you've played it. It's not awe-inspiring. It's not insulting. It just sort of is. And so I'm going to go ahead and put that one into complete mid. Yeah. Alan Wake. This is... Am I going to ruffle some feathers here? I don't know. Nah. Alan Wake is a perfectly solid game. I like Alan Wake, actually. I'd give it like an 8 out of 10 or so. The game itself, I love the Twin Peaks vibe of it, you know, the Stephen King vibe of it. I love sort of like everything surrounding the presentation. I actually played this for the first time in preparation for Alan Wake 2. I played the remastered version via PS Plus collection. And overall, it's a really cool game. I do think it is falls victim to the game design philosophy of that era, where every game had to be like 15 hours long, and so the game just feels longer than it has any right to. It's like a 15-hour game or something, and it should be like an 8-hour game. So I was a little bit over it by the end. I feel like the pacing was a little off, a little too much combat for a game that doesn't shine in its combat, but still cool and worth playing through. Good game. The trophy list, however, is filled with collectibles. You have to get like 100 thermoses. You have to get a whole bunch of manuscript pages and a bunch of other stuff like TVs, radios, things like that. But there's no tracker in-game for all of them, especially the thermoses, which are the most plentiful. There's no way to know which ones you missed without just going chapter by chapter by chapter. And you have to do a second playthrough on the game's unlockable hardest difficulty. And then there are some collectibles that are unique to that difficulty. So you can't even do kind of like an autopilot playthrough. You also have to be following a guide for that, because you can't miss any of those. Once you miss them, they're gone, other than chapter select. But again, each chapter is like 2 to 3 hours. And so you can chapter select to a chapter, but if the collectible you missed is at the very end, you're still playing for 3 hours to get one collectible. So I think it's sort of that era, 2010-ish, where it has collectibles just for the sake of them, probably just so they could tie achievements to them on the original 360 release. I don't think the trophy list is good or additive. I think that it is a good game with a bad trophy list. I would not want to do that again. I actually wasn't going to do it, but the brain worm inside me that wants to get all the trophies got sucked in. Rose in the Twilight. This is another game on the Vita. I've been big on my Vita lately. This is a 2D puzzle platformer, and it's pretty interesting. You swap between these two characters. One is a young girl who has a pretty limited moveset. She can barely jump at all. She moves, pretty slow. But she has the ability to absorb red out of objects in the environment and then place that color red into other objects. And objects that are red will, come alive or move or do something. And then when you suck the color out of them, they'll freeze in place. So you're solving puzzles by doing that. And then your other person you can swap between is this big golem. And the golem can lift heavy objects. can pick up and throw objects, including the young girl, so you can throw her up onto like ledges and stuff. And you end up having to play through like a 7-8 hour game, very desaturated world, very stylish, but surprisingly fun. And the puzzles get pretty complicated by the end. If you have a Vita, I would definitely recommend checking this one out. And I actually have to give it up to this game. Really cool trophy list. It has a speedrun trophy, but it's not for speedrunning the whole game. You can sort of like level select, or like it has sort of like a Metroid style world map, but certain rooms or chambers or puzzles are tracked individually, and the game will show you your best clear time on that particular room. And so you don't need to speed run the entire game. You just need to sort of work down your best time in each room, and then the game is keeping track of your sum of all the times across those rooms. So you get to do like little micro speedruns and optimize individual puzzles, which is way more approachable, way more fun, I think, for this type of trophy, and I really loved it. It was really like quite a good time. So the game is not perfect. I would not quite say it's oh yeah material, but a really fun trophy list and a cool game. I'm going to throw that one into real solid. All right, we're getting down here. Next up is Proteus. This is another Vita game, although it's also available on PS3. And this is another 100%, no platinum. It is hard to describe Proteus. I actually just talked about this game on my podcast, Indie Quest. So if you don't listen to Indie Quest and you're curious about a more in-depth discussion on this game, go check out our latest episode. I link every episode of that podcast and my other one in the description. But I can give you a bigger breakdown there. But essentially, it's sort of like an artsy exploration game. There's really nothing that you do in the game. It's more that the game spawns this open space, and you're just supposed to like vibe, experience it, hang out, enjoy your time. But then on top of that, there's trophy list that has you doing a bunch of specific objectives, including like some pretty boring stuff, like just walking down every path in the game. And the biggest and most obnoxious trophy in this game is that, you spawn on this island, it spawns a bunch of random vegetation, trees, grasses, bushes, stuff like that. And there's a trophy for seeing every single plant life, every single vegetation, every single bit of foliage in the entire game. There's also seasons in this game, so like at certain points seasons will change and you can't go back through the seasons. So you need to wander through the island making sure you've looked at every single thing, even though it's random and there's no way to know or track what you have seen because there's no like in-game tracker or anything. You just are looking at every bush and every tree and then going to the next season, hope you got everything, do it all over again, and it takes like over an hour to get through a run of the game, and then only at the end will you know if you got the trophy when it pops. So not ideal, very rough trophy list. It's a neat game. It's not going to be for everyone or even most people, but I would put it in good game, bad list. Yomawari Night Alone. So this is another Vita game. This is sort of like an adventure. It's not really a horror game. It's kind of light horror. It's horror in like a children's fable kind of way. Another game that was on my backlog that I went and cleaned up. I just needed to get a bunch of the collectibles scattered throughout the world, and thankfully I already had a completed save file, and you can just boot it up into like a free roam and go ahead and wander through the town and find everything you missed. So it didn't take that long to get all the trophies, except for one. This game took, I would say, 5 hours to beat the game, and maybe generously another 5 hours to get all the trophies. That is rounded up for sure, but let's say it's 10 hours to get all the collectibles, all the other trophies. The last trophy in the game is to play the game for 50 hours. It's called The Long Night or something like that. And there's just no way in hell you would ever take that long. You'd have to play the game like 50 times. No, not 50 times, like 10 times in order to like get that normally. And so you basically are left with no option other than to just let your Vita sit open, wiggle the stick occasionally, turn off the auto sleep mode, and let it run, which, isn't good for your Vita. And it's just ridiculous. So this is another easy good game bad list brought down entirely by one rough trophy. I did not understand why it had that. Really just bad. All right. Next up, we've got Etherborn. This is a PlayStation 4 game. It's a puzzle game. And it's pretty neat. It's got like a gravity shifting mechanic. And so at certain points, you'll be able to walk along these rounded edges that, you go from the floor and then it rounds off onto a wall. But as you walk around the corner onto the wall, gravity changes so that now gravity is pointed towards that wall. So you're sort of manipulating gravity, walking around, trying to collect these different collectible orb things to progress through to the next area. Pretty mind-bending and pretty neat. It's an extremely short game, though. It literally only has like 5 puzzles, including the tutorial. And it's like an hour and a half long. And this is like a physical game that I got from I Am 8-Bit. It's not like, one of those like 99-cent PSN store, just like absolute trash games that exist only to give a platinum trophy. Like, it seems like a legitimate game. But it's just really tragically short. Now, when you beat the game, you unlock what they call Game Plus. Not New Game Plus, just Game Plus. And that's like a remixed version of all the puzzles. The environments are the same, but the locations that the orbs are placed are different. And it sort of requires you to have an intimate knowledge of the puzzle already and like know like the sneaky spots to check. So that was pretty fun. But even then, that only took like another hour or so. And so it was super short, but it was neat. I would say because it like is over before it starts, I kind of had to put it into complete mid. It's a pretty easy platinum too if you're looking for an easy puzzle platinum. Static. This is a PlayStation VR game, and another one that was on my backlog, and another one that's just a 100% list. I just had a handful of miscellaneous trophies to clean up, and there was a true ending that I didn't know existed, or like an Easter egg ending. And so I just had to clean those up. It took maybe an hour, half an hour to go get everything that I was missing. This is a really cool game, though. You use the PlayStation controller, you hold it in your hands, and if you can see in the image there, the idea is that your character's hands are kind of like stuck in this puzzle box. So as you rotate the controller, you're rotating the puzzle box, almost like something out of Saw, but without the horror theme. And then every button on the controller does something different to manipulate the box. It's really an awesome VR game. And the trophies, too, were pretty fun to clean up. It's just really short, as was the case with a lot of VR games. But I would say if you have PSVR 1, I don't know if it's on VR 2. It's definitely worth checking out. I'm going to throw that one into real solid. It's hiding behind my face, but you have to just trust me that it's there. All right, Dredge, the penultimate game for us to talk through. We have a pretty cool indie game. It's all about fishing with a little bit of like a horror vibe to it. So you go out, you collect resources, you upgrade your ship, and you try not to be out at night because spooky things happen on the water in the evening. The game has a pretty like tight loop where you go out, get some resources, come back, sell them, upgrade your ship, repair damage, etc. It's a pretty short game, but it also loops pretty quickly. And I feel like the upgrades, I got like ahead of the curve. So by the 2/3 point in the game, I kind of had everything. And I just had to like go through the motions and clean it up. Now, that said, it still was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed my time with it. It did not quite make my 2023 Game of the Year list, but it is quite interesting and seems to be a bit of a success, like a cult classic. It popped off a little bit more than I was expecting. I don't know if it got popular on Twitch or what it was, but it's a very, very solid game. I would put that one into real solid. And the last one here, Sonic Superstars. So this is the latest 2D Sonic the Hedgehog game. And this is one where the game and the trophy list are clashing a little bit. So the game itself is pretty fun. Your first playthrough, it's a lot of fun. It's very cool. And then you unlock this like extra mode that is kind of fun to go through. But you have to play through... How do I describe this without spoiling anything? Let's just say that there is a bit of a grind to this game. and you end up just needing to spend way more time with it than you end up wanting to. You have to at some point like grind out collecting a bunch of rings. You have to get a bunch of like collectibles and rings, but the game only saves your progress on those when you beat the level. And so in some cases you have to like play through the entire last level multiple times, hoping you don't die on the like 30-minute long boss fight at the end. It's just, if you only played it for 2 or 3 hours, it'd be a really fun game. But the platinum that requires like 10 hours of effort and replays and stuff really does overstay its welcome. So I would say it's not even that it's necessarily a bad list. It kind of is. It's more like some of the design decisions in the game hold the list back. I would say I enjoyed my time. I would balance it out to complete mid. It's almost a good game, bad list, but I'll put it at complete mid. So there we have it. There are all of the games that I have completed the trophy lists on, all 20 or so of them in the last 4 months, I think, since I uploaded that video. So again, thank you everyone for the positive reception on the other video. I've been big into my trophy hunting kick lately, and so if folks are into it, I will certainly release some more videos talking about, some of my trophy history, updates like this, things like that. But I thought it would be fun to give you just kind of a breakdown of my collectible hunting and trophy grinding for the last half a year or so that I've been doing. So thank you everyone, as always, for hanging out. If you stuck all the way to the end, you're a real one. And I'll see you in the next video if that's what you're into. Peace.